Şu an gibi kaldı da. Kilo kadar. Okay. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, okay. One of the presentations, they are more than it doesn't work. They look 100%. I'm going to work them about yeah, okay, okay. Yeah, man. We don't have. No, what will not change. Now, this, wait. You already see this? But this is not your pen. Your pen is on. No, I just think this is just add the video. Okay.
The counterproductive, the investment marketing part. But the proposed by this decision is
Welcome back. And now we are continuing first workshop on our applications of artificial intelligence for society. I invite Assistant Professor Dr. Nuno Lopez.
Thank you. Welcome all again on this second part of the conference for today. It's a pleasure to be here again to thank you, Professor Asaf, for the opportunity to organize this workshop. It's our first edition of a workshop on applications of artificial intelligence for society. And the scope of this workshop is, again, like I mentioned in my previous talk in the morning, it's to consider how can we apply and combine artificial intelligence for use cases that are useful for society. In our first edition, we had the opportunity to receive and approve 6 papers that are going to be presented. Looking at the program, we are going to change the order of the presentation of the papers. So if you don't mind, I will just call the authors upon the time. I will start first. It's an hybrid session. We will have 2 papers being presented physically here. Then we'll move to the online live presentations, which are another 3 authors that we're going to present. And then finally, a video from one author that was not able to be here or to connect online. So I will pass now and we'll start by presenting the work, our paper 65, which is an intelligent system to detect drowsiness at the wheel, and it's going to be presented by the author Ana Rita Antunes. Yeah, we can share.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. Okay. Thank you again for this opportunity. My name is Anna, and my work is about an intelligent system to detect drowsiness at the wheel. This work was developed by me, Miguel Menezes, and the professors Joaquim Gonçalves and Ana Cristina Braga. In this presentation, I will introduce the team and explain why this is important and to find a solution. Then I will introduce the objectives of the project that we are working on, and then I will explain the methodology that we use and the results achieved. Then the conclusion and future work will be explained. In terms of sleep, why do we sleep? It is important for us because it's essential for cognitive process, emotional regulation, and attention. Using this, we have more memory, learning, productivity, and concentration. If you don't sleep well, there are several problems, for example, quality of life that can lead to the decrease in the individual productivity, and it can increase accidents at work, for example, in driving. We have some statistics. For example, in the United States, there are 21% of road accidents where with fatalities, and 13 of them have serious injuries caused by drowsiness. A different study that we found estimates that 16 of fatal crashes are due to drowsiness. In terms of objectives, our project intends to develop an information system that monitors, diagnoses, and evaluates in real-time drowsiness at the wheel. And we also want to understand sleep disturbance for each one and alert before they exit the drowsiness state. We want to also use a low-cost and non-intrusive device that allow the collections of biometric data, in our case, heart rate variability. We want to do analysis using statistics and machine learning and artificial intelligence to classify these states and prevent the road accidents. In terms of methodology, we had to do driving simulations because road a car in a highway is dangerous. So we choose some people, then we collect eye blinks and mount movements using automatically open source the OpenCV for Python. Then we use 3 different devices, one for EEG signal that measure the brain activity. Then we use 2 other devices to collect the heart rate, that is A4 wristband and Microsoft Band 2. The AG was the NeuroSky device. Then we do perform the game, we record the game and also the face to have the hyperlinks detection and mount. Before the participants done this simulation, they have to fill out 4 questionnaires to identify the sleep quality, measure the daily sleepiness, to mean the circadian rhythm. This is our 24 clock. For example, I work better in the morning and I have people that work better in the night, for example. We also want to understand which one have a high risk to develop obstructive sleep apnea. This can influence our sleep, if they're good or bad, and consequently accidents. In terms of the driving simulation, we use the American Truck Simulator. Also, we use 10 minutes of adaptation period and 1 hour of exam. To induce more sleepiness, we produce white noise music and the road long highways, and the limiter speed was 90 kilometers per hour. For the game information, we can extract the eye blink detection, for example, duration, number of blinks, we explain after. We also did the drowsiness level classification manually. We visualize the video and try to classify the state of the participant. Then we also identify if the participant had accidents and the time, the stops, communication, jamming, AHE adjustment, because in the signal you can see that is noise to try to remove, and close eyes for during a period of time. In terms of devices, in this presentation we will only introduce the data about Microsoft Band 2. This one we had to extract RR intervals. What this is, you can see in the pictures, this is the time between heartbeats, okay? Then we had to resample into intervals. We can extract heart rate variability information, but we had to remove outliers and ectopic beats. Then we use cubic interpolation and extract time, frequency, and nonlinear features in terms of Microsoft Band 2. Using the NeuroSky, it was basically the same. We have the raw AG signal, we have to resample, reduce the noise and artifacts, then we extract the frequency bands and also the 3 metrics we did in Microsoft Band 2. So, for this analysis, we use multivariate statistic process control. This is very used in industry. They want to understand when the machine is out of control or there is problems. We use this in this case, where it's combined principal component analysis and opportunity square and square prediction error are 2 statistics very used in this type of analysis. For the principal component analysis, there are articles that only use 1 company. We choose to use 3 that are the time, frequency, and nonlinear metrics. And using this, we find more points of auto control and help us doing the classification we want. In terms of results, we had for now 36 participants. Most of them, in terms of range of age, there are 20 to 50. And in terms of medium, there are 23 years old, so we have participants young. In terms of body mass index, most of them are normal, and in terms of gender, we have more male than female. In terms of sleep disorders, most of them have good quality of sleep, have normal daytime sleepiness, low risk of developing sleep apnea, and in terms of circadian, they are neither type, so it's different for them working in the morning or in the afternoon. For the blink metrics, we can see here we extract the number of blinks, the percentage of eye closure, and blink duration. You choose two participants for this presentation, and we can see the participant 1 and 2 have some difference. The first one, we can see that the metrics are higher than participant 2, and it is increasing. So the participant 1 show more drowsiness than participant 2. In terms of participant 2, there are drastic decrease in the middle of the simulation. Our algorithm to detect eye blinks sometimes fail, and we need to improve that. And the participant 2, in terms of visual state, was reduced in the middle of simulation, so is when there appears the night to the morning. For the gain information, here you can see the speed for both participants. We also extract some events, probably can see very well, but the first participants have variations, and they are caused by stops, some related to road accidents and others to long periods of eye closure. This participant closed the eyes because most he was sleeping. In terms of participant 2 was a little different. There are some variations, and in terms of levels of drowsiness was less than participant 2. You can see that participant 1 reached the 5 level, and the participant the participant 1 reached the 5 level, and the participant 2 only go to the 4 level. Here we present our methodology that we use. The first plot is the points that are auto-control using the multivariate statistic process control. We classify as 1, and the second graph is our classification, considering this scale that are in the literature. We can see here that the points auto-control, for example, the participant 1 is the transitions between levels. So here we can detect when the person is awake or there are different to drowsiness. This was very important because we need this for future analysis and to try to prevent and predict this type of state. We have the similar to participant 2. You can see most of the transactions, but we have also to improve these models. Using this one, the same methodology, but for the EEG data is completely different than heart rate variability. For the participant 1, it only detects high levels of drowsiness, and you can see the transitions between levels. In terms of participant 2, it was the opposite. They detect in the beginning of the exam, and then it won't detect. So comparing these two, heart rate variability have good results than comparing with EEG. In terms of conclusions, we can see that IBLINX metrics can provide a good indication of drowsiness. You can see they increase or decrease. This can be information for us to see. In terms of the gain information and the video annotation, it was also good for us because you can consider as a ground truth to classify these states. And using our methodology separating the three domains, it was achieved good results considering the heart rate variability. Then AEG, we have to improve more or apply different technology to have good results. Then, for future work, we have a lot to do. The first one is to perform more simulations. We want to increase the range and the number of our sample. Then we can also use a wave data to implement the control charts, because in industrial they use this. They use the normal data, then they predict for the other to identify if the machine is working well or not. We didn't done this. Then we want to apply machine learning to identify the best algorithm to classify this state, or the wake state and the drowsiness state. Then we want to perform feature selection optimization to identify which variables are capable to classify the drowsiness states. Using this, we can see or perform data analysis to understand how can we prevent or how can we predict these states. The last step is to perform this in real time. We want to produce this model, use a low-cost wearable device, and try with trucker drivers in real time. Here are acknowledgements. This paper was found for this. Want to thank them for this opportunity to be here. This is the reference that we use in this presentation. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I will pass to the questions to the audience. There's any question you would like to
I was too fast. They understand, probably.
Okay, it's the end of lunch, so people are still thinking on it.
Good for me.
Yeah. Yes. Well, yeah, okay.
Can ask you. First of all, I want to congratulate Anna for the presentation. I think you are not too fast. Your project is very interesting. I want to know if you already have the data you showed in one of the last slides, the phases of your project.
This?
Yes. So right now, you already have all the available data, and if you don't have all the data you would need, if you already have started another phases and still getting more data on your project.
Yes, right now we want to get more data because my body is different from yours and we want to gather more information as possible, then try to understand which person are similar, to group them together and analyze them together. For example, this machine learning, we want first to identify the raw data and classify, then perform the machine learning and the next steps. So right now we want to have more information for different persons with different jobs because it's different. What we see now is older people have more drowsiness than young people. So here we have a difference. Most of the participants are younger. That's kind of our problem.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let's, yeah.
One more question. I'm just curious about the EEG signal connection. Typically, the devices, with those devices, it's hard to get 100% accurate connection with the scalp. In your experiment, did you have any issues regarding collecting reliable data from brain signals?
Yes, we have, for example, Microsoft Band 2, I don't know what they did, but the raw is real clean. For example, A4, we have a lot of noise. It's the same with Neurosky. We have to perform different analysis to try to reduce the noise and extract these features, but we need to improve this analysis and clean better the signal. But sometimes it's difficult with these devices because they are cheap too, so it's difficult.
Thank you.
You're welcome. One more, no? So, thank you.
Thank you. No, thank you very much, Anna, for your work, presenting your work and answering the questions. Okay, a clap, please. So, I will pass the word now to our next presentation. Our presentation will be, it's entitled Process Standardization, the driving factor for bringing artificial intelligence and management analytics to SMEs. It's going to be presented by Joaquim Silva.
Good afternoon. First, I want to thank you, Professor Yazaf, for providing us the opportunity to organize this workshop, and all his team for the good, excellent, or fantastic conditions we have here in our university. The paper I will present is about a new research line, the start of research in a new area, also related with AI and the social impact. And it's about the process standardization. That's our thesis that we argue that it is a driving factor that will help to bring artificial intelligence and management analytics for small and medium enterprises. So I will present some ideas and some facts about this small and medium enterprise and its AI, then talk about some issues in the adoption of AI and analytics in SMEs, and then bring the driving factors that will help the process standardization in SMEs. So everyone knows the importance of information in the business. Its role is increasing, gaining more importance because the business processes are increasing dynamic, with faster transaction and generating each time more data. So the role of decision support systems to help to gain insights from this data are very, very important today. Analytics is almost everywhere, and AI is helping to create new levels of analytics. So analytics on the air is being increasingly adopted to improve, not also to improve business performance, but also to augment the agility to answer to business changes. However, this scenario is quite different for SMEs. Most SMEs are not yet ready for analytics. Usually the costs are very high for the roles. Usually you need some expert knowledge to implement these kind of solutions, and it also requires to be adapted along the time because each business changes, and so that solution changes. So that's why SMEs are less likely to deploy AI solutions. There are several studies that show that there is a low acceptance of AI analytics by the SMEs because there is limited know-how, and that's about AI and analytics. There is no understanding how to apply AI, and there is no sense about also about the risk of applying it wrongly. So our idea is that we are coming to assist to a standardization of business process on small business, like it happened in mass production, where the standardization of the process increases the productivity and industry reducing the prices. We think that the standardization of business process data will also help to generate higher quality data, so the AI solutions can be targeted to large groups of users, so they can be packaged into generic solutions. And nowadays, the widespread of AI technologies are helping to the reduction of the cost of AI, and also layering the higher perception of the AI benefits. So integrating AI capabilities into enterprise IT applications targets to this, we believe that will happen soon. And we want to contribute for that trend. We know that SMEs are very important, and not only all OECD countries, but all over the world. I have some numbers about their importance on the OECD countries. And we know that for AI, we need good data and to apply the processing algorithms. So we need to analyze these issues in these two aspects of two components. SMEs still face challenges in both important companies, as we see. Okay. Like for business, data is also the core of analytics and AI. And in business, in SMEs, like in large enterprise, most of data come from the ERP systems. Usually, it's a complex software that is able to be customizable to the requirements of each enterprise. But we assist the consolidation of the big companies in the beginning of this century. But for small enterprises, there is still many IRP vendors, and we think that we also will assist also to a merge or a consolidation of the market on this segment. AI and analytics require that we do deep analysis of business process and data. We also have to have some knowledge about the context, business context. But we need to define these metrics and also to align it with the goals of the enterprise. For adopting AI, we not even to go further. We need to establish AI vision for the enterprise, and then develop some kind of tailored software. This already happens in large enterprises, but for small enterprises, it's not yet possible. So we already see many products or solutions that's based on analytics and AI, like self-service AI, that still are being used by the small and medium enterprises. We also are seeing that most many business applications already integrate some kind of analytics and AI, and there are in market many software tools like Redmine or P9 or Orange that are quite easy to use for deploying AI. All that is true, but we still think that they are not easily adopted by the small and medium enterprises. For self-service BI, usually companies are very interested in using this kind of tools because it gives some independence to the users, and they are already using it. But they also pose many problems because it's not because there is no expert knowledge. There is many problems with the way the data is used and the conclusion that are or insight that get got on that data. So it requires well-defined policies for data management because users, when you give data for users, you have to do good data management and governance. And this is not easy to perform in small enterprises. And it also requires some training on data literacy. And the data literacy, unfortunately, is quite low. So concerning embedded analytics, okay, they are already using, but mostly in solutions for large enterprises. Because it's not easy to see this kind of embedded solutions for small enterprises. So, but if you are able to get solutions for a very large number of companies, of course, the software vendors will have the more bigger market, so it's more easy to integrate this kind of advanced solutions. Okay, about the advanced analytic tools, okay, they are very user-friendly. Something like automation learns help users to use the tools very easily with help to select in the features, what features they should use, or to choose the algorithm based on the goal they want to apply. But that's the same with small self-service BI. It's not enough. So we think that process standardization will help the small enterprise to overcome these problems. We have identified three main drivers. First, as I referred, ERP vendor consolidation. Second, the standardification of several cross-enterprise initiatives, and also government and open data initiatives. This will help to augment the process standardization in small enterprises, and so will help to create a process standardization through a common data framework. So this will leverage the quality of the data and will also provide a large group of small enterprises to have access to the same ERP or same software. About the ERP vendors consolidation, special taking into account the recent trend of the cloud ERP systems. They will be the key for the merge of the ERP vendors. And when the market gets consolidated, the few companies that we are playing on that market will provide a solution that will be more standardization, and that already is happening with some tools. As you see, for instance, if you look at the what's the name of the CRM Salesforce, the solution they offer, they standardize the customer relationship management. So the terms, the process, the events that they happen, is almost a standard for most of the companies. And if you have a standard of the process, you are able to use that process, the same process, to apply analytics and the AI solution over that well-defined process. So that's our main conclusion. We have, for instance, one of the other trends that are contributing for this process standardization is also some initiatives, for instance, in the blockchain for supply chain. For supply chain risk, sorry, what is it? Okay, don't matter. So for Finnish, we are. Sorry. Another interesting initiative is the standard output file for text, the SAFT. That is a OECD standard that already was adopted for many countries, like Portugal was the first, France, Austria, and this also contributes for the process standardization, because all the invoicing and the accounting data should be follow that process, that standard, to be imported to the government tax agency, and so enterprises have to deliver according to that standard. So these kind of initiatives will promote a deeper standardization of the process. We already have some students, two students, master students doing some kind of research, especially about SAFT, and also in studying business partners that are common to a group of students based on this idea of process standardization. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I don't know if anybody wants to make a question. Yeah, doctors. Yeah.
Can you give us a little bit more information? What will be the implications on the risk management side for the small to medium-sized businesses?
About the risks of using AI?
Yes.
I
As you said, they are limited in budget, etc. So that's going to contribute to a higher risk for managing their businesses. So if you can just tell us a little
Yes,
more on that, that would be great.
if you take wrong assumptions when you analyze your data, if you are not, if you don't have some good data literacy, you can take wrong assumptions from wrong insights from your data. But also in AI, there is some works that show that if AI is not well applied in your business, you can have not a good result, but a bad result, because you have to also to assess what are the value distribution by AI. My paper, I see the work about that, about that's abuse that, and that's where I base my argument. When if you apply this is almost where everything that is a good practice to be applied. If you don't apply according to the rules, use the good practice, you can have bad results. So I think it's very important to invest in the data literacy for the companies. You, Economic Union or European Union is as an interesting project that is European Compass. They define some goals for 2030 to higher levels of data literacy and use of analytic tools. But this is a very interesting topic that is, there is many recent research on data literacy or analytics, learning analytics. So I think it's very important because in school you learn how to write, or you learn mathematics, or in a engineering course you learn physics, but you don't not many courses you learn how to treat the data and how to analyze data. And I think this is a very important issue that should be part of our learning path.
Thank you. Any more questions? We okay. We have exceeded our time.
Thank you, Joaquin. So we'll now move to our next presentation. Our presentation will be, it will be online one, and it's Rui Fernandes, this one. Yeah.
Hello, I'm not sure if you are able to listen to me.
Yes. Yes. Rui, can you listen to us?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, I will start. Hello,
Yeah.
everyone. My name is
Wait.
Rui Fernandes. I'm a Portuguese student in the IPCA, the Institute Polytechnic of Cabo and Ave. And with my teacher, Nuno Lopes, we developed the study that we present today, called Network Intrusion Detection Packet Classification with the ICARI 2021 dataset, a study on machine learning algorithms. So our motivation to this study was to address the increased number of cyber attacks that we see every day in the news. And this is a topic of the needs, the network intrusion detection systems, that artificial intelligence is already being used on it. And it is based on identify malicious traffics on network. And in the case of being able to identify, we plan to classify into different attack categories. The problem here is the lack of network intrusion datasets, since most of the common used datasets are now old, outdated, and with lower amount of data. The dataset that we used was the ICARI 2021 dataset. This was a dataset that was recorded with real data in a lab using the Zig software without any filter or firewall, so there can be traffic that is unknown. And it consists in more than half million entries and 83 features. We start by doing an analytical packet type distribution. And by this image, we can see that we are dealing with an unbalanced dataset, since we have more benign traffic than malicious, which is what we are expecting. And we will deal with this problem in the next slides. And on the right side, we can see the 6 different labels that our dataset has, and 4 different attack types: the probing, brute force XML, and the crypto miner. The metrics that we used were the accuracy, precision, recall, F1 score, and training time. We used these 5 metrics to compare our results with different algorithms that we can explain later, and with the original article results. As programming language, we used Python, and we use scikit-learn for the model training and evaluation and other built-in functions that we will show later. We did some feature selections, since this dataset has a large number of features. We have 83 features, and it will take us a long time to train. We use the key-square method of scikit-learn library, and we were able, using k-near neighbors algorithm and random forest, to test from using one feature up to 83 features. And we see that with 22 features, we were able to obtain accuracy of 99%. So we use these 22 features. The machine learning algorithms that we used were the k-near neighbors, the multi-layer perception, which is a neural network, the linear support vector machine classifier, and the random forest. And we used all these 4 algorithms as classifiers, since we are dealing with a classification problem. The dataset was divided in 80% for training and 20% for test. So as a result, here in this first test, we did a comparison of the 4 algorithms, dividing the test to full dataset and using half of dataset. And for each case, we run the test for 83 features, which is the entire feature set, and the 22 features that was previously selected. As first results, we decided to compare our own results with the original ICAR publication, and we saw that when comparing the results of the full dataset with 83 features with their results, we saw that when using the multi-layer perception and the vector machine algorithms, the results were different. Then, when comparing our results between having the full dataset and half dataset, we saw that we achieved a similar result using the k-near neighbors, the multi-layer perception, and the random forest algorithms. In particular, the multi-layer perception presents better results when using half of dataset than using the entire dataset. Then, when comparing the time taking to train, we saw that the time decreases when using less data and less features, which was what we were expecting. But in the case of the multi-layer perception, we were able to train in less time when using more features. Then we run another test to address the problem of having an unbalanced dataset. Here we had 2 approaches. One would be to proceed with data augmentation, but it could lead us to other problems such as overfitting. So we ended up selecting only 1,500 entries per category, and then 750 entries per category. And this means that we are using less than 2% of the entire dataset. But using this low number of entries per category, we also were able to achieve accuracy and precision percentages above 80% for the k-near neighbors and the random forest algorithms. As conclusions, we can conclude that dataset allowed us to achieve great results with those machine learning algorithms, since we were able to maintain accuracy after feature reductions. And we were able to achieve accuracy above 80% for equal size category training. So for future work, we plan to use this dataset and test other machine learning algorithms as classifiers to evaluate those that we tested now, and also apply deep learning, specifically the reinforcement learning. Since we are dealing with a dataset that was recorded without any firewall, we can have here some traffic that is unknown, and with reinforcement learning, maybe we can find out new attack types and categorize them. We also plan to conduct the same tests that we did in these datasets in other recent datasets, so we can evaluate our results and the study that we did. We are thankful for this work that was supported by the Portuguese research project Cyber IP. Feel free to contact us for any doubt. Thank you.
Rui, are you able to listen to us?
Yes.
Okay, good. Any question? Yeah, Professor.
Hello, thank you very much for this interesting presentation. I have two questions to you. The first one is about the data set. I think you used the data set of which was published in 2021. And there is another data set, KDD CAP, and it was published in 1999. What is the main difference between these two data sets? And how did you decide about the method when you began to compare different machine learning methods? These are the two questions to you.
Okay,
Did you
so
understand?
for this work, I decided to. I first did some literature review, and I saw that the datasets were a big problem in this field. So I didn't take a chance to study the oldest datasets, and I run this study on the most recent dataset that I could. So I don't have the knowledge to say and to compare this dataset with the others, but is in my plans for future work. About the second question, sorry, I didn't understand very well. If you could repeat,
The
please.
question is that, when you are investigating some methods in order to use the data set, how do you decide about the method, which method will be the best? For example, in your research, you use KNN, some for vector machine, etc. And my question is that why didn't you use naive bias theorem, for example? What
Okay.
was the reason for that?
Yeah. Here the goal was to study more deeply the feature selections and compare the results with feature selections and balance the data set with the study that the publishers of the paper when launching the Ikari data set did. The algorithms that I used are the same that the other authors used, and that was my goal to compare. But as as I said, for future work, I plan to test other machine learning algorithms, and naive Bayes will be one of them.
So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you, Rui. Any further? Yeah. Sure, please.
Hello, Louis.
Hello.
I want you to explain how did you select these 22 features? Can you explain, please?
Yes, the key-square method of scikit-learn library is a method that selects by the correlation the top features. For example, if I specify that I want to obtain the 20, 20 most significant features, I just have to pass by argument the value that I want, and it will return the most significant features. Then, with those features, I run the algorithms and I got the accuracy.
So you have to choose a number of features, is that? Why
Yes.
did you choose 32? Is one randomly?
No, I run the key-square method for the range between 1 and 83 features, And then I saw that when with 22 I was able to get accuracy of 99%, and then if I choose the 21 features, I would get accuracy very low. I think was like 30%. I don't remember. So I ended up choosing 22.
Okay, thank you. Nice
Thank
work.
you.
Any further question? Yeah. Well, thank you very much. I would like to thank you, Rui. Rui, obrigado.
Thank you.
We'll pass now to the next one. I will present the paper before the person starts talking. So, our next presentation is Human Activity Recognition Review by João Gonçalo Pereira and Joaquim Gonçalves. It's Gonçalo Pereira that's going to present. Gonçalo, can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay, good. So, yeah, you can start the presentation.
You can see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, my name is Gonçalo Pereira. I'm going to talk a little bit about human activity recognition, or HAR. And first of all, we need to understand what is HAR. And HAR is a use of sensors and information coming from sensors to detect a human's activity. The reason why this is important is because on our daily life, we tend to have some activities, and depending on how we behave, this can be a sign of our health decreasing or increasing. If you are a person that usually have a high that is constantly moving and doing stuff, if you start not doing those things, it might show some signs that we should worry. And human activity recognition usually is separated in two main parts, or two main approaches. One of them is a vision-based approach. So, as the name indicates, you use images, cameras to detect the activity. The problem with this approach is typically people don't accept it very well. So, a person that is a subject of study won't feel comfortable having a camera always pointing to them and knowing what they are doing in their daily life. It causes a privacy issue. Of course, we usually think that is the best approach because we see activities. We can see activities, and that's how we say what the person is doing. But having a camera pointing to you the entire time is a whole different story. On the other hand, there are sensor based, and more specifically, the wearable devices are very commonly used because it's something that most people have. You can have a wearable device, and most of us have smartwatches or even phones, and those have sensors. And if you can use that, people will use it. Don't even not even affecting their lifestyle, and it's easy for them to do that. It's easy for them to accept that way of being measured. Of course, in deep learning, there's always the data set, and data is the most necessary thing when it comes to deep learning. Uh, and in HAR is no different. You have several data sets. I chose 5 that were some of the most talked about in papers, and they are different. The data sets in HAR have a particular scenario that you need to understand what you want. So they can change in the sensors that they use, or the placement in the body of the person that they are, and that is one of the factors that you need to consider when choosing a data set for your own work. But one thing that is probably one of the most important parts when choosing a data set is the activities that you want to address. So if you want to, for example, a person that is doing rehabilitation because they lost mobility on their legs, trying to detect an activity of raising hands or clapping is not going to be necessary. It can be in the data set, but it's going to be wasted data. So you want something that is more to do with the legs. And so when you choose a data set, the first thing that you need to focus is which activities it has, and which activities you want to have. So you can make the best study possible and choose the best data set for your study. Uh, this data set that I spoke, and not only this, typically use these sensors, that is a 3D acceleration, 3D gyroscope, and 3D magnetometer. Um, some use other sensors as well, but typically, if you go search in most of the datasets of wearable devices, these are the sensors that are most commonly used because they are easy, they give lots of information, and they are very important. There are also some sensors of ECG or heartbeat monitoring sensors, which can also be used. By personal experience, those doesn't bring much. They don't improve much more. Part of the reason is to have a heartbeat sensor that truly detects and detects very well the heartbeat. It needs to be put on the chest. It needs to be something more professional. And typically, people don't like having a sensor on their chest. It's not natural for us. It's not something that we can go around with that and be comfortable with. So typically, these three are always present in the data sets. And now that we talked about sensors and talked about data sets, we need also to address some methods, and obviously they are not all here. I chose three that also some of the state of the art and most talked about in papers, and especially that they are different from each other. That is also important to understand. And so let's start with Shen and Shui, and I'm sorry if I mispronounce any name. In this case, they use a CNN. Uh, the biggest problem for me with this paper is that they used their own dataset. They created their own dataset. It's not a publicly available dataset, which can, of course, they have the metrics, but it's easier to compare with other methods when you use a dataset that already exists, uh, because we can focus on seeing if it improves something compared to to others. Um, this method, they also focused more a lot on the legs, so falling, jumping, running, walking, all all activities that are based on the people's legs. So it's very focused on one particular thing. The other thing that is different from them is that they use phone sensors. So our phone has several sensors, we all know that, and they place the phone in several places of the body and try to catch the data from the sensors and then create a data set so they can predict. Um, so another approach, Catal used a totally different method. So they used they used three methods, and then they used a voting system to predict. So they use a G48, a logistic regression, and a MLP, or multi-layer perceptron. Um, the idea is if you can use several methods and then use a good voting system that can improve all of the methods above. Uh, in this case, it was a little bit different. They used in a publicly available dataset. They use in wireless sensor data mining. Um, this dataset only has 6 activities, but they are very, very base activities, which is good. Uh, People do this in their real life, walking, jogging, going up and down the stairs. Those are activities that most people will do. And they show a comparison between their model with the voting system compared to all the methods individually. And of course, you have a boost in performance, and that's what they wanted to achieve. And that is very good. Um, that's very good to in future work to improve. So they also stated that they wanted to make a better data set with more activities and more variation. This is their project is still in development, which can only go up, I guess. And I really hope it does because it's a very interesting approach. And then we have Ha and Choi. They also use a CNN, but in this case they use a multimodal CNN, and they use the mElf dataset, also mentioned above. Um, and in this case, they also did something very nice, that they compared to other state of the art. in the same data set. And in this case, they have two approaches. One is CNNPF and the other one is CNNPFF. So the first one is only uses modality specific features, and the other one is modality specific and common features. The idea is that if you use and it's the same thing with multimodal, if you use several information, some information that is collected for some things can be used for others, and that is a good approach and a very interesting way of seeing this. uh, of course, when we want to make a comparison and understand which one is the best, we need to focus on i- is this the best for what? And so we need to choose a specific data set to be able to compare them properly. And that's what I did. I used the ML dataset that is one of the most renowned ones and most talked about, and I retrained the networks for that dataset to see how they would behave. The first one didn't bring much result. The Shannon Chua didn't bring very good results. I tried training several times, and maybe in if I start focus more and more and try to different features, maybe possibly it would give better results. But the problem with this approach is that they are very specific. They are have specific data. They have specific sensors. So that's what. So they try to do something very specific for what they wanted, not in a general solution. On the other hand, Catals proved to be very interesting, and it was not made for this data set either. But honestly, it didn't took much training or much variation to even get to this. So if we were to pick this method, we could even improve it more, and could be a very good approach to what we want. On the other hand, we also tried just a simple CNN that was personally developed for ML dataset. This is not in any paper, but it was personally developed for that dataset, and the results were amazing. It just had some problems in the crouching, but besides that, the results were just fantastic. They almost hit correct every time, and we need to understand that this is part of what we have to understand, that if some methods and some data sets are made for a specific function and for a specific study. So if you want something, we need to address and try to find out the best data set and the best method for that specific problem. So this all these methods are not necessarily better than the other, but they are just better at some things than the other. So when it comes to hard, we need to understand that we need to focus on the activities that we want, the activities that are necessary for our study, and the approaches that better fit those activities. I want to thank you all for listening to me. I hope you learned something at least, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Gonzalo. Can you listen to us?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Any question that you might want to make? Some of the results are so good that people are just convinced of your solution. Okay. Well, if nobody wants to make a question, I will propose to pass to the next presentation. We still have two. Oh, one question here. Uh,
Hello, Gonzalo. Are you in listening to me?
Yes.
Just just a small question. Can you define in a few words what are the main goal of your study? So the study was to, okay.
Yes. The idea of this project was to understand the best approaches that we have to human activity recognition, and that are accepted by people. So in our daily lives, and especially with the elderly, uh, people tend to facilitate and tend to stay more sit and to not move as much, and that develops a very hard problem for doctors, because you should always move, and this can show problems before they even exist, or before they can even be detected. Because I wanted to study that, I needed to understand what there was in the market, the approaches that they were. So I need to do kind of a systematic review to understand what they were, and then even come up with my own approach after that. I used that CNN because I found that CNN was made for the mHealth. That said, that would be the best data set for what I'm looking for. That is a general activity for people.
Okay, okay. Thank you and congrats for your presentation.
Thank you.
Okay. Any additional question? Okay. Well, thank you, Gonçalo, for your presentation. And we're
Thank you.
going to move to the next one. Yeah, congratulations. So I will pass now. We're going to present the next paper. The next paper is called New Online Reality, and it will be presented by Nuno Martins, which is online. Yeah. Nuno.
Hi.
Yes. Can you listen to us?
Yeah. I can listen.
So you can start. No. We are not listening to you.
You are listening now?
Yes.
Yes. Let me start. Good afternoon. We are four students from Portugal, from the wonderful city of Porto. We are finishing our degree in system engineering, and in the course subject, we worked with several well-known companies, and we found a solution at an emerging need in the world of remote work. I can show you, we are Nuno, Pedro, and Alexandre e Tomás, that is not showing on the camera. We will make our presentation in a video format, and not forget people with hearing needs. The entire presentation has subtitles so that can understand all the content. In the end, we will be answering any questions or doubts of the topic. We hope you enjoy it.
The pandemic made the remote work a reality, but the question is, what do people feel about it?
O trabalho foi a solidão, estar sozinho, trabalhar num ambiente sozinho.
É impessoal.
A falta de socialização.
Falta de eficiência.
Lack of socialization.
Perde-se o companheirismo com os colegas, uma pausa para tomar café, troca de impressões, socializar, enfim.
So, the big question is, could we solve this lack of interaction?
I think we can. Good afternoon. We are here today to explain our solution to this problem. We know for sure that with the pandemic, everyone has experienced remote work. This brings people a lack of socialization between friends and coworkers.
Whoever missed a coffee break with that special friends that share your interests.
So this was what inspired us to create New Online Reality. Can you imagine having an application that allows you to create rooms to hang out with your friends and coworkers?
That would be a dream come true. Imagine myself in the comfort of my home with a friend taking a coffee break. Uh, Sounds like an amazing experience for me. But our application is not only that. We have far more features.
To demonstrate our point, we created this prototype with some of those features. One of them is a background room personalization with wall posters about events or other activities that the companies will have in the near future. We also created an experimental gaming room with some multiplayer games for the enthusiasts.
Certainly, workers who are more connected with the online world have come across some solutions that are being developed in worldwide companies. That's the case of Facebook Horizon, NVIDIA Omniverse, or Microsoft Enterprise Metaverse, with some quite new VR and AR metaverses. This being said, the future can hold space using artificial intelligence to track new opportunities and help human resource management.
For the development of our app, we use a platform which is used in the gaming industry, which is Unity. We use Unity mainly for the character animations, the user interactions with the scenario, the games built within the app, and a few more things. But before that, we used Blender, which is mostly seen in the animation industry, and we used it for the modeling and texturing of the scenarios and objects.
To do all that work, we needed to have a fundament for our research, that it could have some kind of revenue. In our paper, we reflected on 3 models, but we chose only to show the SWOT analysis model, on which you could enumerate our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, in order to have a qualitative opinion of our app. Showing at the color green, we can see the more important points of each column. Also, we must have to mention a specific part of our paper, which is feedback. We got a good opinion from a group of teachers and companies representatives, in which 18 of 20 people choose our solution as the best in a group of solutions to implement in companies. Thank you for your attention. I'm Nuno Martins. On my right, you have Tomás Martins, Pedro Costa. Behind me, we have Alexandre Esteves. And you have to thank the people on the picture, our teachers, Susana and Alberto. Thank you.
In the near future, our objective is to launch our website, where you can get more information about our project on the About tab, and about the team on the Team tab. And for the best part, if you click play, get ready for a fusion of both worlds.
Thank you for your attention. If you have any questions, we are here to answer.
Okay, thank you very much, Nuno. Are you listening? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So, I don't know if the audience has any question. If all for those. Okay. Well, no, the audience they don't have questions, but I might make one. It's just a general framing to understand the context. This is a prototype, so I believe, right?
Yeah. We made a prototype with 3 weeks. We could not go any further than that. We made just for showing an example. Well, there's some kind of example. We have a few features showed, but we can have more features to improve.
Okay. Can this have any kind of be of a serious game in the sense that we have some
objectives that we are not showing directly to users, but the interaction with the users with our game will provide that? Can that be beneficial for the users?
I think it can be good for the users. We have research about feedbacks that we get from companies that people say in remote work that they couldn't have a space for talking with their co-workers, a lack of socialization. That's a problem we try to solve, and they kind of like this solution. It's not a good solution. We can see in 3 weeks we could not progress too much, but they like the concept of this solution, and we can see it a good thing to improve, to implement.
Okay, thank you. I guess it's something that probably will be needed because indeed lack of socialization is affecting all of us at all levels. And okay, good luck with your work. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'd like to congratulate you.
Thank you.
Okay. So we have one final paper to present. It's not going to be online. It's going to be, sorry. Okay. So the last paper, it's going to be a video. The paper is named Context-Aware Data Augmentation for Efficient Object Detection by Unmanned Aerial Vehicles, UAV Surveillance. The authors are Yuri Gordienko, Alexander Rokovi, Oleg Alyanin, and Sergei Stirenko. I did my best. The authors are from Ukraine, University of Kiev. They did submit the paper and they submit also the video. And the author explained that he could not be here because he's been called to the armed forces as we speak. And then, so he can do the paper, he submitted the paper, but it's completely impossible to be here physically. And it's also impossible to be here in video online because there are blackouts and problems and sirens ringing and etc. So I wish him all the luck, and I say that his work is going to be presented here. And so he sent the video, and I'm presenting the video, okay?
Our presentation and the title Context-Aware Data Augmentation for Efficient Object Detection by UAV Surveillance. The work is performed by a group of others from National Technical Investigation and the title My name is Yuri Gordienko. My topic is dedicated to our presentation and the title Context-Aware Data Augmentation for Efficient Object Detection by UAV Surveillance. The work is performed by a group of others from National Technical University of Ukraine, named after Igor Symposium. Content of my presentation is standard, and I am going to introduction. We are evident of, for example, the current evolution of deep neural networks, which demonstrate a very high performance and high applicability for different tasks, for example, for object detection from drone imagery, namely image and videos obtained from cameras installed on drones and unmanned aerial vehicles. Recently, it becomes a very intensive field of research and used to detect some very tiny objects like pedestrians, bikes, vehicles, and more bigger sized objects like cars, buses, and so on, for various applications, from urban logistics to general logistics, traffic management, manufacturing, and other work applications. What is main motivation of our paper is evaluating some techniques to improve the current state-of-the-art deep neural networks, which used for object detection in this context, in the context of drone imagery, and in the presence of the following errors. For example, in labeling procedures, first of all, then availability of different classes of quite similar by shape, but small by size, for example, and different by dynamics. The main incentive is to use the current dynamics and current available datasets to improve in the view of the real world data. Why we are interested in real world data? Because if you go the background and let it walk on this way, you can see that the whole workflow of obtaining drone images like this. You have some drone, they make some snapshotting, and obtain some result, image like this, or videos like this. The sound bounding boxes around object of interest. Object of interest can be like this, for example, or like this map, or for example, not only in the shape of bounding box, but in the shape of pixel-to-pixel objects in segmented region of interest. That is why the very big volume of data was collected, but the following problems also were observed. First of all, some availability of shadows, for example, road marks, or, for example, some difference in colors, or occlusions created by objects which are not of interest, for example, for our task. That is why all these things actually lead to decrease of performance of the models. But in addition to this, we need to understand that some objects can have very small size in contrast to big size objects, for example, like cars and buses, where distances are quite small, and are created by human or algorithm-related errors in labeling procedures. That is why we attract your attention to how these problems can affect on very good current DNN models. For example, we used YOLO version 4 models, which is very good known for current moment, demonstrate very high performance and described in details elsewhere. Our idea was to attract attention to model real world data, which can come from a variety of sources. It would be very complex, unusual, it has an unstandard structure, but mostly important in our context, can be incorrectly annotated or not annotated at all. This is so-called relatively dirty data sets, which are used very widely now in practice situations. That is why there is a need for a new, highly efficient approach for application of these state-of-the-art DNN networks for work with real-life dirty data sets. In this context, we attract your attention to methodology. First of all, what kind of data sets we use, and how these data sets, which can be clean and dirty, and contain proposed here context-aware data augmentation, can be used with these very well-known models and a different branch of workflow. First of all, data set. Data set is created on the basis of Stanford drone video imagery data set, which was available on the site of its developers, but now it's not available, but it's available elsewhere. We created a derived version of this data set with some image. Some examples of this image are presented here. For example, you can see the man object, biker object, skater, car, and bus. With some logos which are evident here. For example, this bounding box covering not all person, this bounding box also not covering all square or bus, and so on. This is additional, not necessary background. This card not bounded at all. It's all create impression how bad can be the data set. But most important, there is some man-made errors created by operators. For example, that Alice mentioned the situation when car ran missed at all. Or for example, so-called algorithm-driven errors by erroneous extra interpolation object movements can be provided also. For example, we see they noted by blue ellipses. For example, this car is going by this way, and on this image it's properly surrounded with bounding box, but on this image it's disappeared, but bounding box exists. It's an error. That is why to improve our understanding of such influence of such problems on performance of SOTA DNNs, we apply extended data augmentation procedure. I need to know that we use standard data augmentation procedures, which was good for such applications, and also we use another data augmentation procedures which were not so good at all. And because they were not very counterproductive, we mentioned them minus and plus as a whole. But we propose quite different procedure, which is based on the increase or decrease bounding box. If we assume, for example, the ground bounding box was in red color, we propose automatically decrease and decrease by this value of percentage, and with this notation, for example, in out by number of percentage, and apply them to original data set and create derived data set, which were used additionally to original data set. It's so-called context-aware data augmentation from our point of view. Let's consider how it influences our results. But first of all, we need to describe the models and workflow on the basis of this additional context-aware data augmentation. First of all, we used YOLO version or the mid-batch expression, which is described in details in this book. And you can see that all the recurrent numbers here go into the numbering in the main text. We perform usual training with measuring the following metrics. And all these metrics were determined after 1,000 training epochs, and highest values of validation of this value were saved for each experiment that will be described later in the tables and in the diagrams. First of all, the following list of experiments should be denoted. For example, original experiment was based on so-called random weight initial weights of model developed before for original dataset SDD with output of model and with subscript 0 or O. Then the additional experiment in 5 included, except for original dataset, included additional dataset created on the basis of context-aware data argumentation with change of by 5% of the bounding box for all objects. If after training in the same way, we obtain model subscript 1. Then additional data augmentation in the opposite directions of change of width and height of the bounding box was applied, and actually this dataset contains from 3 subsets, and we obtain model 2. That is why, step by step, we obtain different modification of these training models, and all of them were evaluated on non-seen evaluation datasets. The whole diagram of all these procedures is described here and in details described in the paper. Finally, what kind of result it allows us to obtain? First of all, it allows us to obtain the following procedure for estimation of our statistical reliability of the results. We apply so-called five-fold cross-evaluation, which is in contrast to five-fold cross-validation, means that all evaluation set not foreseen for training models was divided in 5 folds, and for each fold we measured all metrics and then estimate mean and standard deviation of all metrics. That is why by this cross-evaluation we can estimate the statistical reliability of fluctuations of our measures with relation to different data and evaluation sets. Then all models were evaluated, not full evaluation subset. It allows us to perform the reliable estimation how big our difference. As to the original training experiment, it was like standard. We estimated evolution of the mean average precision and loss, and determine all necessary values for dirty and clean version of data set. Finally, it allows us to obtain the following, for example, for cross-evaluation, the following values for each fold. This estimation of mean, as I said before, and standard deviation values for all metrics which we described in this context for all classes. And you can see that standard deviation was not more than 1%. It's related to the dirty data set, and for some so-called clean subset of data set, which was manually checked and excluded all errors that were performed by an operator or algorithm. It allows us to obtain estimation that again, the error as a whole is not higher than 1% for dirty and for clean data set. That is why, after this, we measured the same things, mean and standard deviation values, for each class. And we obtained by different values because for some classes the error was much smaller, and for the other classes it was, we compare the same metrics, but after context-aware data augmentation, if, for example, we compare original one results and all other after each procedure of in the workflow of context-aware data augmentation, this is especially interesting to observe not only for all classes, but per classes, because for all classes we average and imply different behavior for different classes. If we consider the same situation for different classes, then we can have here much more pronounced persistence of improvement of our model. For example, for in 5 out of 5 experiments, we can see the best values for dirty and for clean substance. And this difference, this improvement of our performance is approximately from 2 to 3%. And if you compare the standard deviation error, it was approximately 1%. That is why this context-aware augmentation, at least by 2-3%, allow us to improve the performance of our models, even on clean and dirty data sets. That is why, if we provide, for example, the same approach for CART and BUST, it's not so good. For CART, it is a measure of error and standard deviation. For BUST, it's much better, much worse. Why? Because if you compare all these situations, I mean, if you consider the structure of bus and the structure of man, the roof of the bus have very homogeneous texture, and this texture is very similar to homogeneous texture of, for example, road or grass or other background. That is why some mistake can appear in this context. What is more important here also that is non-commutative nature of context-aware based training procedure. Why? Because when we make procedure of in 5%, it means we decrease size of boundary ball by 5%. Actually, we increase signal of noise ratio, and by this way, we increase signal of noise ratio for whole data set in the part of edit subset. But if we add outlier subset, we increase variability of data in this because we include much more information of background. It leads to decrease of signal to noise ratio to some extent, but in 5 outlier procedures. And it can be different for various applications in data sets. And we see that between sets for some classes, this can be the problem of detection was considered for standard drawn data set, or data set part which was put as open access as CDD frames. Context-aware data augmentation was proposed. It allows significant improvement of performance in comparison to experiment without CADA, and allow to get NAP values on dirty real data set, similar or higher even than on clean data set. This can be explained by increasing signal to noise ratio of the background pairs after context-aware data augmentation. It should be noted that non-commutative nature of CADA-based training procedure can be observed. And the best strategy consists in first in, then out CADA procedures. In general, it allows us to support the trainer shifting from model-centric to data-centric approach to artificial intelligence problems. It was mentioned, like it was mentioned in the European opinion. For this, I am finishing my presentation. In the past, my report, I like to say thank you for your help to Ukraine, because you know on 24 February, Russian Federation started the invasion of Ukraine. But no, it's not invasion, it's war. This war against not only Ukrainian independence, also against current democratic values, principles, humanity, genocidal intent. From second day of the war, I served as volunteer soldier in battalion of Kiev territorial defense, right 2 kilometers near from Bucha massacre place. Then I returned to my university. But when you're watching this video, Ukrainian people are dying from terror Russian attacks. For example, right now, preparing these presentations, I stopped several times because I hear yelling from the streets, attention, raid Syrians in Kiev, please proceed to shelters. This war will be very long. After dismantle of Putin's regime, Russian totalitarian empire. But we will win and defend our independence and democratic values. Every day Ukrainians are grateful to all civilized people, to you, who every day provide their support to Ukraine. Thank you. We feel this, we thank you and them for this. Thank you very much for your attention.
Well, we don't have questions. If you want, you can get the contact of the author. You can send an email to contact him. He's answering emails. Okay, so I consider that we finished this first session of our workshop. I think it went very well, and it was a pleasure to have you here and to assist. I hope you enjoyed it, and well, we'll wish you till next time. Thank you very much.
We had a great 2 days. Thank you for your participation. We hope to meet you again. Thank you very much and goodbye.
So thank you very much, everyone. This is the end of this event, and I would like to say something to you. It was 2010 when we initiated this event with a friend from USA, and his name is Peter Allen Cooper from San Diego State University, where my eldest son is working now. At that time, I asked him whether or not we can make some collaboration in terms of education or symposium, etc. He said that he is ready to make collaboration with our institution. At that time, I was at Fırat University, and I was the chair of the software engineering. And you know, thanks to this the collaboration, we could make some foundation with Samsun State University. And for example, one of them is called the dual diploma program, and it means the students are taking courses at Fırat University for 2 years, and later we are sending them to the United States. And the students could gain dual diploma from Fırat University and from Samsun State University. And it is very interesting, you know, the level and ranking of this department is going every time up. Although the dollar course is going up, this entrance point of this program is going up too. It means if you are creating something interesting, this will be accepted by other countries and by other communities too. And then we decided to build a symposium. At that time, we were only 4 universities: Samsun State University, Gazi University, Fırat University, and there is another institution, governmental institution, that we established the symposium. And I remember some people asked me how this symposium will be famous in the world. At that time, I said, if we are building a consortium member with other institutions and colleges, I am sure in future we will grow very rapidly up, and we will have good collaboration, and we will organize this event in other countries too. We organized this event, this symposium, 2 times in the United States, then in Romania, in Portugal, and then in Beirut, and the rest of them were done in Turkey. As you see, this is an international symposium, and there were very interesting papers. We witnessed them, and I am sure this trend will go to up in the future too. And there are some other institutions, they want to collaborate with us in terms of organizing this symposium in future. And we are negotiating with them. And the Maltepe University was the consortium member last year too, and we organized this event in Elazığ, at Fırat University. And this year, our rector, Professor Dr. Şahin Karasa, supported this event too, and we should be able to organize this event at this university. And you know, there is not so easy to establish this type of the organization, and we cannot do alone in terms of organizing this type of the organization, I mean. And there is a group who are working behind this scene, and therefore, you know, although we are a few people, there are many people who help to this organization. Not just the teacher and my students and other too, but my special thanks are going to the consortium members. For example, IPCA is a consortium member of this event, and they organized an event several years ago. And they want to continue to support this event too. First of all, we can applaud our team, I mean, all of the people who are here. My special speech for my students. As you see, we are teaching you digital forensics courses, and in 2 days you learn a lot of different subjects. And I am sure you will steer your way in future in terms of computing, in terms of cybersecurity or artificial intelligence too. And my special thanks are going to the Vice Rector, Betül Çortuksuken. She helped us too. And welcome to this organization. And we have two key speakers, Abdullah. We were together in Marrakesh, and then Nuno. But you know, when I am checking the list, there are many Nuno, and in Turkey we have Mehmet, so much, and it is very interesting. In this presentation, I think 3 or 4 Nuno. Thank you very much. Thank you very much again. And if you want to take this opportunity to speak to the audience, you're welcome.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. I'd like to thank, of course, the organizers. I'm also organizing some conferences, and I know how much work it is. So a big applaud to all of you. This is a very well organized conference. So from that perspective, my congratulations. And another thing that I've remarked here, it is a very high quality conference. So also from that perspective, I think you did a very good job. And I would like to congratulate you for that. And I think another very important thing is the fact that you have involved your students in this is a very good example on how on the way to go forward. You know? Many conferences are more specifically directed towards the researchers, high-end researchers, PhDs, and so on. While having your students from this level already involved in research, I think this can be only good for the students and for their future. So congratulations with all the work that you had done.
Thank you, Professor Webb. It's a pleasure to continue this collaboration that we started some years ago. IPCA was a partner, and then I was called by Professor Manuel to assist. By the time I was one of the team that was organizing the conference physically at IPCA in Marseille, Portugal, and it was a pleasure. We look forward to this collaboration. Our collaboration is growing. We are also, this year was our first year with the proposal of a workshop. We are starting, we start small, like probably this conference was 10 years ago, and then we grow bigger and bigger. And it's the same for the collaboration, and you can continue to count with the IPCA support. Professor Manuela assured me that I will tell you that yes, that we are committed to this partnership and we want to continue, and we also offer the availability to organize in the future an edition probably in Portugal if you see fit, and we hope to continue this collaboration. Thank you very much.
And the last word will be, are you ready to tell something? Because you are the third chair. And maybe you want to address the people. Ayşe Sarman is the instructor at our department.
It's been great pleasure and also privilege for me to be the term chair, as I've said in my speech. I had a wonderful time. I learned a great deal. I'm very happy that yesterday and today lots of my students attended, and some of them came and told me that they're interested to do further research like master courses here. Also from the keynote speakers, I have got wonderful ideas and inspirations, and maybe I'll get in touch with them further. It's a great event. I want to thank most sincerely to Professor Dr. Asaf Barol. Firstly, to make such an organization and make our university, particularly our department, more international, and also to give me this opportunity. I hope you had a wonderful time. I hope you enjoyed our campus, the oxygen, which I recommended from the first day. and I hope you enjoyed your stay in Istanbul.
Thank you very much. We finished. Okay, now we can go.